Welcome to Your Unique Brilliance podcast with Nicola, bringing you a weekly fresh flow of guidance, inspirations, powerful tips, and conversations designed to help you create your vision, discover your greatest diamond potential, and begin living the life you want. This is about empowering your truth, your choice, and your voice. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's Your Unique Brilliance podcast. I'm Nicola Salter, and I'm very excited today to have with us Ange Matthews. Now, Ange is here to discuss the power of your woo. Yes, your woo, and we're going to find out what that is in a little while. She is CEO of her company called LeaderSauce, which is a change management company that equips executive managers and teams to lead and succeed in our very changed world of work, right? Ange is a results-driven business executive and leadership expert with over 25 years of experience across entrepreneurial, boutique, Big Four, and Fortune 500 organizations. She's amazing. Ange cut her teeth at Williams Television Time, the DRTV industry's pioneer and the fastest growing media buying agency of its day. She developed and led the corporate human resource function and effectively managed the company's rapid 6-year growth. And over the next 6 years, as a human resources director, Ange managed the explosive growth within divisions of both Ernst & Young and Pitney Bowes. Welcome, 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 Ange. It's so good to have you here. You have such a remarkable background in history. This is incredible. Yeah, welcome. It's great to have you, and it's such a blessing to have you here today to share your wealth of information with our listeners.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
That was a great pleasure. Before we jump into our topic today, about our woo, and yes, we will let everybody know what our woo is, and maybe some of you already know. And you've been working for 25 years with large corporations. How did your adventure begin?
It started in human resources. I've never been that human resource person who was into payroll or insurance or any of that. I was the person who managed the relationships, handled conflict, got people working well together, and hired talent. That was really my expertise. And something happened where I saw when we had good leaders and good managers, we didn't have a lot of HR issues. And that's what at my time during it as being a human resources pro, I was interested in making sure we were compliance. I wanted to make sure we didn't have any lawsuits. Yes, we wanted employee productivity. Today's HR person has such a big job because it's so much more. And managers have a huge job, and sometimes managers just rely on their HR departments when reality is they're the ones who are really responsible for employee engagement. So
yeah, it's so good having you on board today, because it's not very often I have someone from the corporate world coming in to talk to us, but you've also got your own business. So yes, you've got extensive experience in the corporate world, and you've also got extensive experience as being an entrepreneur. When was it, and why even did you decide to set up your own organization?
Well, it started after I left Ernst & Young. I love working with entrepreneurial organizations, and Ernst & Young was an 80,000 employee company. So we did big process stuff. I wanted to bring that big process knowledge to the small business owner. So my typical client at that time was about 100 employees, and I had a business partner. And so my first company was on September 1st, 2001. And then 10 days later, 9/11 happened. So it was wasn't a great time to start a business, but we trudged through, my business partner and I. And then that business failed in 2008 during that financial crisis, the October 2008. I'll never, ever forget, because every call was a cancellation, not because we're not good at our business. It just, people stopped, everything stopped during that time.
Oh, I remember that so well. I'm like you. We hit, I think you and I have hit the most tumultuous time of having a business ever in the last 20 years. I mean, we've been through everything. And even, 9/11, the economy, fires, COVID,
I know,
so much. And now another war that's taking place. And it takes a lot of stamina and determination to keep something running while all of that is going on around you.
And it's lonely being a business owner, you have to keep it, you have to keep it together. And I've been employed during this COVID time. It's been tough. So, keeping that hope alive, because a leader keeps the hope alive.
That's right.
In the background, you're like, oh my God, am I going to make payroll?
I know. You're like the swan on the surface of the lake, but underneath you're paddling like mad underneath to
Oh,
make it all happen. But you look so graceful as you're doing it. Well, I like to think I do, but maybe I don't.
yes.
But so,
Oh, I think you do.
thank you. So, so starting up your own organization, you've been doing this for a very long time. Um, you knew that leadership coaching was the direction you wanted to take to smaller businesses because of the experience that you'd had in the corporate world. And we've just been talking about some of these external challenges that we face when we're running a business. Balance, new clients coming in, where are the new clients going to come from? How are we going to achieve this and still stay in our leadership positions? What's really the biggest challenge that you feel that you have running your own business, in addition to the outside aspects that we just talked about?
My biggest challenge right now is managers taking the time, because they're so busy. I tend to be in the advertising, entertainment, media space, and they're so busy they don't have time. But the problem is their employees are resigning left and right, and that takes a ton of time to hire, train, get your talent ready, and keep them. And there's managers, there's a lot they can do. So it's taking that time to engage your employee. It's not this official performance review. It's nothing like that. It's asking questions like, hey, what was one of the biggest things you learned this week? That you're super proud of, so that, people want purpose in work. And, a manager taking that time to just care about their employee, ask some questions, make sure that their employees are getting something out of this. This great resignation is hurting a lot of companies right now. Employees want purpose. That seems like a big concept. And it takes some time to understand what motivates and engages your employees.
Right. I agree. I agree with you. I used to be in the corporate world a long time ago. And I do think sometimes organizations lose sight of the fact that their teams have their individual lives and their own individual ambition and missions. And they could effectively tap into that more to support the organization in its growth and have everyone really identify what the purpose is, or their purposes, and what they want, and then appropriately put those people in the right teams where it's going to really work. Right?
And I think that we're in a situation where there's a lot of Zoom burnout. So
Right.
there does have to be some face-to-face collaboration. And that's another thing. Not that I'm very much for a hybrid workforce, and I love remote workforce, but there's times where people, when I'm meeting with an executive group, I want to look them in the eye, because we're gonna go over a leadership framework, and we need to get agreement that we're gonna all do this. And then you can start to do this other thing. But the connections, I think, have been super hard on other businesses, but they've also been hard on my business, because the fact is I want to create change.
Right.
And when people are on Zoom, they are doing so many other things. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you're teaching big concepts and trying to get agreement, that face-to-face is important too. Unless, by the way, they've been a team for a long time. So if they've been
Okay.
a team for a long time,
Yeah.
and a good team, they're fine. They really don't need that FaceTime, I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new people that are coming into these teams.
Wow. So this is quite a challenge that you have. You are an agent for change yourself. You're looking to encourage and motivate change within the workplace, especially with the way things have gone since COVID, what you're saying there. It's really supporting people, encouraging people to change their belief patterns as well, I would imagine, around that old paradigm of working and stepping into this new way.
Yes, and the future of work, that's why I love your topic, is about strengths. So if we're looking at employees, you know, if you've got employees that have talent, they work really well, we really shouldn't be focusing on weaknesses. We should be focusing on what do they do, and really understanding their strengths, so we can make sure we position them. And
Mhm.
that's very motivating to them.
I would understand. And talking about weaknesses, I know that so many of us think of a weakness as a terrible thing and a failure, but of course, we can learn so much from our failures, and it's part of our growth, of course. Can you share anything in terms of any mistakes you've made in your business and you were really able to learn from it though? Does anything stick
Yes.
out for you?
Yes. I think I've made a lot of mistakes. I mean,
Me too.
that's part of being a business owner. That's, if you want to grow and take risks. But
Hmm.
I think my biggest mistake, and I still do it a bit, and I'm trying not to, is going at it alone.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I going out alone is exhausting. It's scary. It's super, super stressful. And then not even focusing within my strengths, literally just trying to do what I think I'm supposed to do instead
Hmm.
of, you're really meant to do this. And yes, you cannot, if you want to get to your place, you're going to have to get some help and you're going to have to trust and you're going to have to be collaborative. And that's been something that's a big aha for me that I'm
Hmm.
really focused on now.
Yeah, I think a lot of women, when they start their own businesses, they forget that they're eventually going to need a team to take them to the next step. And that's what it is, isn't it? It's that growth piece. If you want to really make it and go the next step, you do need to bring those people in to support you and help you because, like you said, you can't do everything on your own.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun working with people. It's fun
Hmm.
to laugh about something that you relate to with somebody. And so
Hmm.
yeah, team is huge. And it doesn't always just have to be employees. It could be a mentor, it could be a business coach, it could be people you're collaborating with, a
Hmm.
person on your women's group.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I'm finding that personally with the WBEC, and you're a member of that too, in terms of just having that support from those female members, helping you to grow in the projects that you're looking at growing, and it just feels so much more supportive, and that you're not in this on your own, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, the WBENC was huge for me.
BEC, yes,
Yeah, that was
yeah.
huge for me. And going through their platinum program and their other programs, um, you know, I'm really good at what I do, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily good within my business. So, especially in the financial statements and those kinds of things. So,
Hmm.
it's been, very, very positive, and I would highly recommend it to any women business owner out there.
To join. Yeah, I would too. And they'll be able to find listeners. You can find out more about that on the thumbnail that we'll post and the information of how you could look to join that if you are a female business owner. So let's get down to, we've been talking a little bit about weaknesses and mistakes that we've made, which are all part of our growth, so important. Let's go into this week's episode subject of talking about our woo. Right?
Woo.
Woo. Okay. So,
I always
Ange,
wished I had woo. I still wish I had a little more woo than I have, but
let's just share with the listeners what our woo is. What does it mean?
okay, woo means winning others over, and it's one of the 34 strength themes from Clifton Strength Finder.
Okay.
And there's 34 themes, and we are
Mm-hmm.
not good at all of them. If you
Mm-hmm.
take an assessment, you're going to find, that you have your dominant, your supporting, and your lesser themes. And Donald Clifton, the inventor of this, would want you to focus on your top five. Gallup would also suggest that you focus, they're the ones who own this assessment now, on the top five, because that's where you get your most ease, excellence, and enjoyment in life. If
Mm-hmm.
you take this assessment from your gut. By the way, it's an assessment, not a test.
Mm-hmm.
So many people freak out about that stuff. And so when I talk to my clients, I'm really clear about this. We love you just the way you are. We want the best assessment so that we can get a language around you to understand more about you and where you should be focusing, as well as your goal, some of your motivators, your strengths. And then, yeah, you have some lesser things, but they're nothing to worry about. That's the thing I've learned about this strengths work.
And I think it's fabulous. This is how one of the ways that we connected, and you were very kind enough to take me through the Clifton strengths. I've done the exercise, I've done the questionnaire. It didn't take long, it was easy. You have to be very spontaneous and authentic in your answers. You can't overthink.
Mhm.
The questions are very simple. And then Ange, you took me through my results. You've gone through with me to help explain what my 4, 5, 6 key strengths are as my personality type, and where I should be, focusing my attention work-wise. And before we just jump into those, I would love to share with everyone that this has really helped me. The work that we did together has really opened my eyes up to affirming that I'm actually meant to be doing what I'm meant to be doing, which was really nice.
Yes.
That was really good. That was a good start. Um, and then it's actually helped me focus on those strengths that I have and build them into like my capability statement, like who I am, and putting it on my LinkedIn so that other organizations can identify very quickly where my strengths are and if I would be a good fit for their teams. So this is something, whether you're planning to go into work for an organization or you have your own organization and you want to really build out your teams and their strengths and have them working in the right place, or if you're a solo entrepreneur, and where you want to focus, it really is across the board. It's such a great, great, great source of information to have at your fingertips and helps you focus. So, Ange, do you want to start with what mine were, or would you like us to talk about yours first?
So we'll talk about yours. So your woo, just to start you off, is at number 21 on your 34 themes.
Okay.
And so when I'm talking to you, woo is not necessarily coming out. What's coming out big time is your number 1. It's that relator.
Okay.
And relators is a relationship theme. And what relators like to do is they like to work hard with somebody to achieve something. It's just naturally within you. It's your ability to be genuine, and your ability to be genuine with people is something, the reason they want to work with you, right?
Okay.
So that's, and then your number 2 is another relationship theme, and that's called individualization. And what's unique about that is you can read people really well. You actually understand the individual nature of people. So you know more about them than they probably know about you, especially in a very big a first encounter. And then their third one is positivity. That's also a relationship theme. And people that have strong relationship themes, which you do, you have them in your very top one, is you know how to hold a team together. That is something that comes natural to you. And so this is your natural talent. It becomes a strength when you actively and purposefully work on it. So the assessment is like, hey, here are your strengths, right? The next part is for you to read your results, your 4 different reports, work with a coach, but also start to see your actions and talent in action. So you would see it at the grocery store. You'd see it when you're working with a client. You'd see it when you're talking to a family member. And once you've done that, you do the next one. Then the third final thing is you aim it. So aiming. So I have relator on my top is my relator is my number 2. And it's the reason I was a successful HR person. It's the reason I could be an advocate for the employees and an advocate for the business owner and the managers, as I walked that line, because my goal was to keep everyone happy, right? But not, no one liked you in the end, but the job was no lawsuits and the employees were developed, right? There's this balance that I was trying to do. That relator was, I'm working hard with both sides here to get this done. It's why I was a good HR professional. Great. So your relator is why I think you work so wonderfully with women CEOs on their transformation. But you also have your number 5, and your number 5 is achiever. It's also my number 5. So the achiever in you, think about, when do you really fail? When have you really, really failed? So this is something I say to myself when I'm about to embark on something pretty hard out there. And I've had a lot of hard stuff. So I think about, there's failure, no doubt, but I'm talking really failure. So I think about, well, what do I do to make sure that doesn't happen? And in my college years, it was work all night, get that paper in, and then I have to go to my work too. So you learn that achiever in me tells me I'm not going to fail. I have a history of not failing, but the problem with being an achiever is you live with a whisper of discontent a little bit because you're always trying to achieve.
Yes. And there is that danger of overachieving. You know, and you do feel driven as an achiever, that you don't know what it is, but there's an essence of being driven
Right.
to achieve. And my drive is to support and help other women. That's what my passion is. And I do, like you, need to step back from time to time to just whisper and say, no, enough. You've done enough for today. We're good.
Right.
But yeah, and so what I'm finding is, you just said, and I want to do more coaching with you on this, and just so that our listeners understand, you can actually go to Ange's website at leadersauce.com, and we'll mention that again.
Mhm.
And she's got a banner there where you can click for this service to do this questionnaire and then do some coaching with you. It's a package that she offers, and then take you to the next steps. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, I would take somebody all the way to where they will be able to name it, aim it, name it, claim it, and aim it, and
Okay.
leave with a development plan on using your strengths. And this is a thing that, a lot of times people will just take the assessment. You can't just do that, because I should be able to say to you, hey, what is your number one strength? And you should be able to tell me, well, it's relator, and this is how I actively use it. Too many times I'll go into organization, and because I do this for teams, I'll go in and somebody will be like, I took my strengths assessment. And I'm like, awesome. Because I'm super excited. I'm thinking they're using it.
Yeah.
Well, what was your top 5? And they're like, well, that's not,
That's not going to
you need
work.
to actually, yeah, you should know your strengths. You should know the order of them, at least your top 5, because Donald Clifton would have shown you just your number 1, the inventor, because he believes that if you really focus just on that one, that relator, you will live with the most ease, excellence, and enjoyment in your life.
I
You're putting
love
yourself
that.
in the strength zone.
I love that. And that also then leads to your purpose and creating that life that you want for yourself. The impact, the ripple of impact is so huge by coming from that one place. And I have to say, I've been using the information that you shared with me in my workplace. And at one point, I was always thinking, well, everyone else knows how to do this. Why should I say anything? That was my thing. And then I found that colleagues might get a little intimidated by me. They would say they were intimidated. And I was like, why are they intimidated? But now, with the information that you've given me, I've been able to see myself so much more clearly, and how I am in the workplace and how I am with others around me and my colleagues, my co-workers, that I've become very much more focused on really helping and excited about helping others see their qualities and relating with them, and that it's good that I do that, and I should be doing that more. It's okay that I do that because that's who I am, you
Yep.
know? So,
And then if you want to be a strength-based team, and a strength-based team is a group of imperfect but talented contributors.
mhm,
So I learned, okay, so what do you do at the bottom with your strengths if with your lesser themes? What do you do
right.
about those? Right. So with woo is a lesser theme. And as somebody who is a business owner who's, gone through 9/11, the 2008 financial crisis, and now COVID, getting new clients and meeting new people is tough, right? If you don't have woo.
Mhm.
So what do you do instead? So I had to figure this out. And I used to beat myself up because I didn't have woo. I literally would do this thing where I'd sign up for a breakfast event,
Mhm.
spend the $40. I'd get all ready, drive to the place, get out, and just feel fake, feel like this isn't me. I can't do this. And I'd walk away. And I did that constantly. And I thought, wow, what is the difference between my company, my first company, when I had a business partner, and I realized she had woo. When I was walking in with her, we were able to, meet 40 different clients that way. And the reason is she would engage people and have conversation. And then I would go deep and talk about their problems. Well,
Mhm.
once I was solo, I didn't know that it was really her. So what would I do now? I'm not going to try to get more woo. I'd bring somebody with me,
I
right?
see. Yes.
I would bring somebody who has more woo than me, or maybe good communication. That's in there. You have good communication in yours.
Mhm.
So, or self-assurance in there. So I would bring somebody with me. That would be the way, or maybe instead I would be the presenter, because then I'm not having to go meet people. They're coming up to talk to me about something in my area of expertise. So that's what it done, is it positions you
Yes.
instead of continuing to do something that just was uncomfortable.
Yes, I think it's fabulous, and I'm so excited that you introduced me to this. And share with us your key strengths. We've got relator there, we've got
Sure.
achiever.
So
What
my
came up
number
for
one
you?
is strategic, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. When I got my report, I'm like, wow, that's, strategic. And by the way, it's not like Mark or Michael Porter strategy. It's not that. It's a scrappy, creative way of thinking. Okay. So, and I now can, very much position myself. So strategic is my number one. Relator, responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
activator, and achiever. Now, there's something really important I haven't told you yet, and that
Okay.
is that we can be in basements and balconies in this. So the basement is dark. It's a dark place. It's when you're overusing your themes, your talent themes. So it's not good for you. So it almost becomes this weakness. So my responsibility, my number three,
Mm-hmm.
I was in a basement. So I would take responsibility for everything, even when I should not have taken responsibility. Um, and I, even in my personal life, for example, I told my mother, for example, that I will never put her in a nursing home. Well, when she got severe dementia, after her living with me for 4 years, I couldn't do anymore. I just couldn't take it. So my responsibility theme, that honest, I'm gonna, I do what I say I'm gonna do. There was just no way. So I let it hurt me, and that's what I mean by a
Mm-hmm.
basement. So for me, I'm always going to be responsible. No one, you're not going to get an Ange that's not responsible. I would be upset if I said, I'm going to send you a recipe, not that I cook, but I'm going to send you a recipe and I didn't. I'd be like, wake up that night. I'd be like, oh my God, I said something and I didn't do it. Where a normal person would be like the next day, well, what's normal, right? But the next day, just type and say, here's the recipe. So I overused my theme.
Mm-hmm.
People do that all the time. Sometimes someone overuses achiever, like where they are very unhappy because they're just constantly not achieving, or competition,
Mm-hmm.
where they're too competitive and other people don't really want to work with them,
Mm-hmm.
so we can overuse these as well. And what's important to know is there's basements and balconies. The balcony, it's light. We're using it correctly. The basement is when you're overusing it, where it's causing harm to you or others.
I love that terminology, basement and balconies. And, in my world, as you're talking, my skill set, I'm also looking at when you're in the basement and you're overusing some of these strengths, it's also coming from an emotional code, an emotional wound that is driving you. So, like we said earlier about me overachieving,
Mhm.
there's that, because that's, as we both said, we can overachieve. Um, Sometimes that can be coming from an emotional wound, from a childhood experience that
Mhm.
is driving that strength to be too much. So the overachiever may be also trying to make up for what dad didn't do. And I'm
Right.
trying to make up for what my father wasn't able to accomplish. So I'm going in there to try and make it happen, even though he's not here now, God rest his soul, but I wanted to make it better for him.
Yeah.
So
That makes
again, those experiences, those emotional codes that drive us, then feed into those strengths that we have. And what you're showing us is that, look, these are your strengths. It's like we don't need to overdo.
Mhm.
You can position yourself. This is how you can use them, how you can relate in the workplace. This is the type of life you can actually be creating for yourself. One of, as Mr. Clifton said himself, um,
Yep.
a life of ease and peace. So I think there is so much to this. It's like one big jigsaw puzzle. But at the end of the day, understanding what you're offering, I think is so simple, so clarifying, so easy, and easy for us to grasp, especially with the coaching that you give to remind us of how to use it and
Yep.
where we can position. That I think everyone should be doing this. It's great.
Yeah, I think this is, I think the future of work, the future of life is strengths. There are parents that have their strength-based parenting.
Yeah.
There's, my niece, when she went to university, they took a strengths assessment. Now they just took the assessment. They didn't teach them how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that this is something that should be for every life learner out there.
Yeah, yeah, and especially for teenagers going off to university, and then, they struggle for 4 years if they find themselves not being able to keep up, or they don't, they feel like a round peg in a square hole. Knowing though that they've got this backup of understanding about themselves, I'm
Mhm.
sure could reduce anxiety and overwhelm by a very large percentage.
Oh, absolutely. Now, your talent is set according to the research at 17 to 18 years old.
Okay.
So I would say that if I'm going to take this assessment, I would want someone to take it after they've graduated from college and maybe have been in their position for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I say that is because I have done this with younger people that are in college, and we're finding adaptability to be in their top 5 consistently. Like that's, and I think it's because they've had to be adaptable throughout, their parents have been telling them what to do, universities telling them what to do. So I'm just thinking that to really see it now. And the other thing is you can take it again. And people will say, well, what happens if you take it again?
That was my question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes things change or shift, but not much, so for example, my wife, she's taken it twice, and maximizers her number 1. Okay. And maximizers, they take something that's good and they make it great. Okay. Mm-hmm. That did not shift at all. What moved for her is her achiever moved down to 7 and her harmony moved up to 5. The others stayed the same. Her work situation had changed dramatically when she had taken it from the first time to the second time. And so her job at work did involve more harmony. So she was probably using that dominant theme more and thinking about that more. And it did move up a bit, but otherwise they don't move around. They don't change. They might move to a different position a little bit. So
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting about the young people though too. That makes a lot of sense to wait until they've graduated and more stable, I guess, in terms of
or if for career, if they really don't know what they want to get into and they want it as that help, that wouldn't be bad. It's not that. It's just it'd be interesting to do it again 5 years later after they've done some work.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Ange, this has been fantastic. Thank you. So can you let everybody know where they can go to get an assessment with you?
Sure. If you want to get our package, you can go to LeaderSauce.com. It's LEADER, sauce like spaghetti sauce.com. And right on the homepage is a banner that you can click on.
Perfect. All right. Well, I would love to finish with hearing a nugget of wisdom that you would like to share with us and with our audience today. It can be anything. What nugget of wisdom do you have for us today, Ange?
I have 2 actually. One is to position yourself using strengths, because for too many years I have tried to do and be something that I'm not, and so that one is really been important. But I think another one is, it's a lot of times people want to be a leader. And I teach leadership. And one of the things is leaders do is they model the way, they inspire to shared vision, they challenge the process, they enable others to act, and they encourage the heart. And it's really about frequency of behavior. So I was talking to my nephews the other day, and I said, and they know this work that I do, and I said, I think I'm a leader about 85% of the time, because it's hard to be a leader 100% of the time. I would say there's like 5 practices, 30 behaviors, and, treating people with dignity and respect. Yes, I got a 10 on that. Good. But, I personally recognize people for their contributions. Maybe I'm a 7, right? So, that's what I mean by that 85%. So I guess what I'm trying to say is leadership's about frequency of behaviors. Anyone can be a leader. That's my nugget. Anyone can be a leader. You do not need to be a CEO, a rich person, a politician, a business owner. Anyone can be the leader.
Anyone can be a leader. Thank you, Ange. Thank you, Ange Matthews. You've been amazing today. Really, really appreciate your time and the information you shared. And again, for anyone wanting to go ahead and do the assessment and coaching with you, reach out to Ange at LeaderSauce.com. Thank you. Brilliant. I'm hoping to have you on again soon. Lots more topics to cover, I am sure. Lots more things to dive into, but this is a great place to start. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Your Unique Brilliance podcast. And if you want to define your brilliance and redefine your diamond potential, schedule a personal consultation with me to discover just how you can do that at nicolasalter.com. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. And if you found value in this show, I would appreciate a rating on iTunes, or simply tell a friend. That would be amazing. You are amazing. Have an empowered week, everyone.